Thanks for coming to the Climate Action Committee meeting. Let's see, I'm just gonna make a couple of. Let's see, just have some open sharing and announcements. You have an announcement, Janet, about.
I guess I can have an announcement about next Tuesday morning, 8 AM. First Parish Church. Karen is going to be one of the presenters at the Concord Can meeting. And she's going to be talking about her experience at COP28. So there's coffee and something reached at 7:45, post parish side entrance.
I'm really going for the top. No, it'll be fun.
Okay, let's see, I have some other. Yeah, I brought my, okay, there we go. Okay. I need to have someone take notes, but at the chair's breakfast, can you hit the got it button?
Oh, sorry.
That's over there. I don't like the dialogue. At the chair's breakfast last month, someone was saying, you gotta turn on Zoom AI. Which will practically take notes for you. And I've heard people say that it's terrible, and I've heard, but the guy at the chair's breakfast said it's a good tool. Has anybody ever used it?
Yeah.
We've used it.
So,
Go ahead, Jerry.
What'd you say?
I don't know about quote unquote using it, but I took advantage of it in preparing the draft minutes that I put together. I was surprised. I wasn't aware of the feature until I saw it. And it was very helpful for me. It's not a substitute for minutes, but
Huh.
it is a distinct help in preparing the minutes. At least that's what I found.
Okay, and I don't necessarily even know how to turn it on.
It's on.
It's on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Since I set up the meetings, I just set it as a default function. So basically, I'll
Okay.
get an email with it, which just gives
Transcript.
it a transcript, and I can just forward it to whoever
okay,
would like it. So,
No, that would be useful.
yeah, the Solar Task Force has been using it, and they probably had the same reaction that Jerry said, which is, it's not a substitute for minutes, but it might help to.
right, might make it fast.
Right.
Okay,
I mean, when I take minutes, I know I miss things. And then, I hate taking minutes, basically.
okay. Would anybody like to take minutes this evening? Or be willing to take minutes this evening? I know it's,
Out there.
okay,
You will?
thank you,
Yeah.
Karen.
You can't probably, I hate taking minutes.
We had a conversation with the party.
You don't
either, do you?
No, I'm happy to do it tonight. I think it's probably my turn.
Okay, great. Anyway, just as a comment to start the meeting, I'm hoping that this will be 2024, a new year, gonna be a good year in many ways, with that election hanging over us, perhaps, so you can't control that, but we and I hope it's a year where we, as a committee, get a bunch done and feel good about it. And one of the things that I hope that we accomplish at, today's meeting is figuring out how to operate a bit better and share projects and bite off what we can chew. Because I think I've been perhaps been too ambitious, and I think following a meeting that we had today, it's a good idea to scale back. Now, our next meeting would be scheduled for February 5th on Tuesday. And I'm wondering if that is a good day for everybody, just to check. Or at least for most people.
February, yeah.
And
6th, I think. Tuesday, the 6th.
6th?
Yep.
Did I have that wrong? 6th. Maybe that's the 6th.
I think.
You have it right on the agenda.
I just typed it wrong.
Yeah.
I think I have something on February 6th. But it's
And-
not on my calendar. But you can do it at me.
we could do it here, or we could do it there. Which are we more comfortable with?
This one's cozy.
That big room or the
Although
small?
if everyone were
fine.
here, we might be a little cozy.
I mean,
Too
as
close.
long as we, I mean, there's chairs for many. When he wants to come in. But this is big enough.
Any preferences?
Yeah.
What, do the big room over,
Select board room.
which is where I just went first because I didn't read. My own fault, my own fault. I don't care.
Okay. Eric can choose the room. So first order of business would be approving minutes from previous meetings. We had 2 sets of minutes. And I read them through and they were both good. I think I saw a spelling mistake in one, but,
And then the word attendees.
okay. One thing I want to apologize right now, my hearing is awful. It goes day to day and, I'm hearing about half of what is said.
No.
And this is just an issue I'm having and so I'm gonna maybe ask people to repeat themselves or ignore it or miss stuff.
I think this is a better room for listening to people's on now.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Do you find this room better?
I find it, we're closer. It might be better. I can't tell. And it's day to day and it's, I'm not happy about it. Seeing people and stuff. So let's see, we have November 28th minutes that Jerry provided. Did anybody have a chance to read through those? And note any corrections?
At a quick glance, I didn't notice anything.
And I,
November 28th.
that's the same here. I think I noticed one spelling error on it.
Grace.
Grace,
I know her last
Grace's
name.
last name.
But.
Yeah, that was one.
what was it?
I corrected that.
And there was the word attendees was the one that jumped out at me, that was just a simple misspelling.
So Grogan's, attendees, oh, there's an N, and then there's one other spelling thing, but who cares about spelling? I think there was one where it says Kearsarge and it's misspelled that. Unless that was the other one. But, with those changes, I don't think there's anything of substance. And there's Grace on screen. Uh,
Hi, Grace.
would, anybody make a motion to, approve those?
I'll motion to approve the minutes from November 28th.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor
I,
on the screen, so that would be unanimous. We have 7 of us now. And, then there was the minutes from that, that I think Cheryl did of the December 12th meeting, which I also read through and they looked right. Where did that go? That's that one. Mhm.
Just noticed only on 28, so I'm not sure whether there was picked out, so
What?
frost instead of force.
Yes,
You've
that's,
both found that one, okay.
okay, from, let me just,
But it was clear what it meant, so I don't
Yes.
think we need to revote.
okay. Then the December 12th minutes, that was, I'm looking for those, but,
I have it on my screen if you want it.
okay. Did anybody see any corrections in this minutes? Okay,
Listen to the entire meeting.
Uh,
It was interesting, actually.
captures it, just fine. Shall we approve them? Who would,
I move that we approve the minutes of as well, December.
okay,
Second,
okay, all in favor?
I,
That would be,
I'm abstaining. I was not at that meeting.
okay. Jerry abstains. Good. Now I'm trying to, I'm still behind in getting minutes posted for previous meetings. And I'm wondering who took the meeting minutes in October?
I did.
Did you do October? Then that'll help me find them in the
Okay.
email, but,
I think I did.
so that
I can find it on the-
the, I think one of the things we've done is we have made corrections to send to the person who did the minutes, but then I didn't get the corrected version back always. And I need to do that and get them posted for, like 4 months last year. So I've been postponing doing that. I'm gonna try to get that done, this week. So in my update, I will say that I got the year wrong on this agenda,
Okay.
and did anybody notice that?
No,
Okay, maybe that's just something nobody would notice, but,
and then it was accepted.
It was
By the
accepted,
town, so.
but we're about a year late on this agenda. I've been writing up the annual report and, which is not a very involved annual report, because we didn't get that much, but we did some stuff, for town meeting, been working on some projects. I will probably reach out to a couple people to just get a little beef to go in a couple of sections. But that should be done, it's due next week.
We can send it to me, I'll see what I can,
Okay,
you want something added to it, is that? was that-
well, I just want it to be
something sort of
respectable,
Respectable. I'm sure
Um,
it's respectable already.
right? Let's skip over goals, we'll get to that. Okay, we're on time here. Eric, sent an update. And which I didn't get a chance to read through. Are there any highlights you'd like to,
Yeah, well, there's probably two quick things I'll mention. One everyone already knows, which is the fossil fuel-free building demonstration program. I sent an email out to everybody letting you all know that we were formally accepted into that. We got notified on December 22nd about that. So we got a formal acceptance letter. And as you also know, the acceptance letter recommended that the town amend our bylaw to A, include major renovations, and B, include affordable housing. So we have a draft article that was shared with the select board back at their mid-December meeting, and they voted in favor of supporting and sponsoring that article
yeah,
at the meeting. So which is good. That's where that is. I'd like to be optimistic that we shouldn't really receive much pushback on that, I don't think.
right,
I reached out to the housing authority just to touch base with them and, you know, see if they had any particular concerns regarding affordable housing. Their response was largely, you know, that's fine if it means that the affordable housing costs more, a little bit more because of that, then somebody's gonna, you know, the town or somebody else is gonna have to, you know, pay for that.
right,
You know, but I think there weren't any strong objections to it at all, so. Yeah, so that's all in the works, and then the,
when does the bylaw, the unamended bylaw take effect?
Should be officially, it should be March 21st. It's the bylaw says 90 days after we receive notification. So if you just
Okay.
do 90 days by calendar, I'm assuming it's not necessarily business days, I don't know, but if it's straight days, it takes us to March 21st. And that's when the current bylaw would take effect
Okay,
for new construction. Yeah, and then the only other thing I was gonna mention, which I can't remember if I put in my report or not, is that I was also notified right before the break, maybe it was during the break, the holidays, that CMLP would notify me that the level 3 chargers at Rideout Park are installed and active. Which is great. There's been some delays with getting that in because of supply chain issues from the electrical service side and also the charger side. But those are up and running. I haven't been over there to see them yet. I saw a picture, but I haven't been over there myself to see them. And then my understanding is that the level 2 chargers that were there will go over in the parking lot across the street from the main library towards the umbrella. There's that little parking lot across the street.
oh, it's all right. Oh,
There's no charging there now, so I think the plan is to take those level 2 chargers and install them over there to add some additional charging over there. That's what I was told by the light plant a little while back, so. I'm not sure what the timing is on that.
Seems odd to move used ones over there rather than put in new ones, but maybe.
I mean, I guess if they're functional and they don't really have to upgrade the electrical service over there significantly to do
Yeah.
that, and might seem like a reasonable solution, I don't know.
Reduce,
Yeah.
reuse, recycle.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's what I was, that's just what came to me as part of a communication, so I wasn't even aware that that was the plan or happening, but. So that's, yeah, those are just the 2 things I was gonna mention. I'm happy to take questions on anything else that's in the update. I mean, obviously the update isn't too groundbreaking considering it was, the holidays and things were a little bit slower than normal.
Right.
Were you aware of CLMP change in management?
I found out about that over the holiday break as well. I wasn't in town between Christmas and New Year's, and I found out through an email communication from a resident
Oh, jeez.
that they had heard that was happening, and then once I got back into the office, yeah, I confirmed that, so.
Can you share? Is there, huh?
Can you share? 'Cause I haven't.
Oh, yeah, so-
It was in, yeah, just
Yeah.
within.
So the Dave Wood, the
Yeah.
director of the light plant, gave his resignation. And he is taking a position as the director of the light plant in Wellesley.
Hmm.
And it was just announced this morning that Jason Bolger, the director of IT, is gonna be the interim CMLP director.
Right.
Effective Monday. Dave's last day is Friday this
Wow.
week.
That was my concern. What do you think about the interim? Do you think there'll be any sort of, not the interim manager, but
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
you
it
know,
sounded like
I,
it was short, there was short of personnel in the first place, so I was just wondering how you thought this might affect.
yeah, I'm hoping, I mean, Jason's a very, very competent guy. He's worked at here for a number of years in another light plant, so I don't have any concerns in the interim, but as far as I'm not sure how long it's gonna take to fill that position. And, obviously that leaves a gap in the meantime, so I'm hoping that doesn't necessarily impact anything moving forward from a sustainability perspective. I mean, the
Right.
lights are gonna stay on and
Well,
and all that, but but I know Jason and so like I said, I'm sure he'll be, happy to, continue to work with me in my role for anything sustainability related that's happening over there. And there's a couple other folks that I regularly communicate with over there as well on a number of different things. So I don't anticipate that it'll necessarily, create any issues. I think it'll be, great to hopefully hire somebody new who's very supportive of sustainability and continuing to keep the light plant right at the forefront of municipal light plants for, our goals and climate
Right.
action plan. So we'll see.
yeah, I think there's kind of a pool of people who are light plant directors at MLPs that tend to play musical chairs a little bit, and I bet, I bet it won't be that hard to find, someone, but we'll see. It's kind of a nice, opportunity to change things around.
So, I mean, obviously from a sustainability perspective, you know, I mean, I don't know what if any say I'll have in the process, you know, but I'll certainly be advocating that whoever fills that role, you know, that hopefully they'll be forward thinking, you know, when it comes to the future of the light plant and the grid and all the policies,
Right.
supportive of the things that we've been trying to advance, so.
Well, every time we have a storm and all the surrounding towns lose their power, I realize how nice it is to live here. Because of the light plant and the fact, maybe a lot of it's undergrounded. It's just, there was a storm last month where every town around us lost power for like a day or two.
We're
We lost it for 4
Yeah.
hours, not
Yeah.
days.
You did lose?
We did,
Concord Center. they did.
Where we were,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but, you know, on the order of hours and they had it up and going.
Right.
yeah, my power's out for 3 days.
Case in point.
Yeah.
So,
That's enough to ruin everything in your freezer.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a lot of money went in the trash, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that's right.
Anyway. No, so I think that's all I had, but like I said, I'm happy to take any other questions.
Any update on the facility director? Or-
I think they're
Right.
doing the third round interviews maybe this week or next week, so they're getting closer to hopefully settling that.
Oh, for facility director?
Yeah,
Okay.
facilities director, and I haven't been involved in that process at all, so I can't shed any light on that whatsoever, but I do know they're getting closer. So, maybe I'll just mention related to that, I've talked before about, the town, working on trying to do deep energy audits for municipal buildings, and that we have some funds to be able to do that, and I've been investigating that and then sort of slowed down, a little bit after the previous facilities director left, a number of months ago, with the reasoning being that, you know, we wanna, whoever comes in is probably gonna wanna have some say in you know, what we do with the buildings. And maybe they'll have some experience with doing that, you know, so we wanted to sort of, not move forward too aggressively yet with that. But I did have a conversation with, someone who was involved in, doing that same process in Lowell, for their municipality. They used, an energy service company to do that. So I just talked to them last week and got some perspectives from them on taking that particular pathway. So still trying to collect data, and as soon as the director is in place, we'll get an audience with them and let them know where we are with this and try to keep moving forward.
Great, thanks. That's, so let's see, any other questions for Eric? The next item on the agenda was, we got a request from, Laura Davis, who's, chairs the Transportation Advisory Committee, to support their request for, supporting the public, let's see. Supporting the public Works Department's funding of improvements to roadways. Because they have gotten to a point where they haven't been regularly funding pothole repair and sidewalks and things.
I was at the transportation, I was on zooming into the transportation
Okay.
advisory committee today, and certainly that came up and saying that there's a measure of road quality. And the other surrounding towns have pretty high ratings, and Concord is way below because things haven't been maintained. And you know, so that a lot of roads need work, sidewalks need work. And the other thing they were saying was, you know, there's this transportation advisory committee, and if they don't have any funds to make improvements, then why is there a transportation advisory committee?
Yes, okay,
So they were really strong-worded about that. They were going to use their consultation company to find out about what public transport systems that were in other similar towns, neighboring towns, and maybe something like Plymouth, somewhere like Plymouth, that is historic and does have some local transportation within town. And what else? Oh, the other thing that I did not know, that shocked me, was that 2 children had been hit by cars walking on crosswalks in Concord. One was bad enough, they had to be airlifted to Boston. But it, it was basically drivers not looking for pedestrians at crosswalks and how important it is to keep speed down.
right.
So that's my takeaway from the meeting
Good, when did they have that meeting?
this morning.
This morning, okay,
Yeah, they had it here this morning, but I zoomed in. I
Okay.
didn't come over.
thank you. So I sent a copy of their letter to the select board, and I made a quickie letter just to support their letter. Where did that go? That was, that I
Yeah,
think I included.
I know it here.
Where did that go? So that
The
is,
last attachment.
that's their letter.
Well, that's
Did I
them.
include- did I include my letter?
No, you have,
Okay.
it's the last attachment.
Yeah. So. I mean, I could just read it, and I could send it as the chair representing the committee. I just said we support the investments in transportation improvements recommended by TAC in that memo on that date, particularly as it relates to reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, which is the primary goal of our committee, of the climate action plan. It's imperative we encourage and facilitate more residents choosing alternatives to automobiles, including bicycling, walking, and transit. And improving safety is important, should be prioritized. Investigating transit service. I think transit service is complicated to get people to use it, but if we could figure out how to get that and get people to use it, maybe kids would ride the school buses. Otherwise,
Oh, one scenario was, kids who visit friends after school from the other side of town, and parents having to drive all the way across, maybe from Lowell Road to West Concord and back again to pick up their kids. And maybe the bus would be helpful for
yeah,
that purpose,
sure.
apart from, dealing with older people who can't drive and the other people, for one reason or they can't drive. And people who don't want to drive.
Right. So are there any improvements we should add to this letter? Or do we, as a committee, do we want to send a letter in support?
I think so.
I don't think we have an official vote. Gavin is for it. Sure,
Yes, I am. But I don't know if we need a vote. It's up to you, Brad.
yeah. Are there any improvements anything that I left out that I don't want to get more long-winded than this necessarily, unless it adds something. So I will send it along with our committee, to the select board.
Yep.
Good,
I like it.
okay. Then, let's see, what are we gonna do?
Sorry, before you move on. Maybe just work in, I don't know where, but. Work in a reference back to the climate action plan, that it supports that, 'cause I think it does. I don't have the
Right,
specific actions, that were transportation related, but I guarantee there were 1 or 2 that it addresses. You don't have to call them out specifically, but I just say,
Okay,
maybe make a reference back to that.
okay, that's a good point. I mentioned the plan, but I didn't mention like a page or a section of the plan.
Oh, did you? Maybe I.
Just
maybe
at
I
the
missed
beginning,
it.
I mentioned it as like
Oh, okay,
reducing
yeah,
his emissions is what we're about. But
yeah, maybe that's okay, I just missed that, Brad.
I will add a sentence that transportation is
Oh, yeah,
a
okay, I see how
is
you,
a
how you did it.
an important element of the plan. Element page reference. I think I can do that and then I think that adds some value.
Yeah, cause I guess what I'm thinking, or when I first read it, or was first thinking about it, you know, I agree, that the promoting public transit and pedestrian alternative forms of transportation, they absolutely address greenhouse gas reductions. And I was just trying to think, you know, is it broader than that? Cause, you know, playing devil's advocate, pavement improvements is,
It's not.
it's not really, well, kind of doesn't, but maybe it does, you know, maybe we could, you know, you can think about it a little bit deeper and.
We
you
can
know,
dig
it
up the
improves-
roadways and
Yeah, I
do,
mean,
Well-
if you have rough roadways, it slows people down, probably. If they're
But
not,
that actually help, like,
It's
that
an
actually helps, right?
Right,
Doesn't that help,
right.
efficiency to a degree? So, anyway, so I was kind of like,
well, there's an
Anyway.
equity component
but
as well.
I think go back and look at, you know, if we just kind of refer back to those actions, because I'm pretty
Okay.
sure we had transportation related actions in the climate action
Right.
plan, and we kind of say it's focused, you know, it kind of,
Okay.
it moves the needle on those, and I guess leave it
Right.
at that, so.
Well, I mean, I guess there's also, I don't know how it works exactly, but I suppose if they're improving pavement conditions, that maybe that also provides an opportunity to, like, if you're doing lines, to consider safer lines for pedestrians or bikers or things
Absolutely,
like that as part of that
Yeah.
process. So, you know, maybe promoting that multimodal a little bit
Right.
when you're
Yeah.
doing the roads,
Yeah,
repaving the roads,
yeah. yeah.
but I don't know.
Mhm.
Okay,
when they
It's not really
repaved
explicitly
Monument
said, so it's hard to
Street
say.
a couple of years ago, so many bicyclists, thank goodness, it's so much smoother to ride on.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
yeah,
Anyway, those are just my thoughts.
okay, very good. I'll make that change. Then, let's see. We don't actually, I thought that there was gonna be something in January, we need to get ready for these town meeting articles, but it's actually a little bit, you have a bit of time on that. In terms of schedule, I think yesterday the select board was supposed to decide the order of warrant articles. And then at the end of February is the first scheduled public meeting on the articles that we are supporting. I assume, are you gonna write the presentation up for that or the?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would be the one doing it, right, as a town employee, like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be up there. I'm guessing the
A
committee
lot of the
would,
town employees are the ones to do it, like,
well, I don't know, I mean, I haven't really sort of been through that process before. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to help pull things together. I think there's a little homework that needs to be done, probably to back up the inclusion of affordable housing, just in case people have questions about you know, the additional costs associated with that, potential additional costs associated with that. So there, I know there's information that's been pulled together by a couple different organizations that provides case studies and other information to show that you can do multifamily housing at a comparable cost to traditional construction. So I just think it'd be good to have that kind of information available if there are, you know, questions that come up or challenges that come up. Because I think there's different numbers that are out there too. When I was talking to the Housing Authority, they were telling me that they just saw a recent Boston Globe article that was saying that you know, building to the higher efficiency standards, it results in a 5 to 10% increase in cost, which is not as high as I've heard from other sources. And I didn't see that article. I don't know what the sources were.
Right,
I don't know if it was an industry driven article. There's been some discussion, some of these groups,
But those are-
sustainability groups about, there was a report that came out that was involved MIT, but it was also sort of funded and sponsored by the building industry. So people were giving a lot of credibility, but the
but are you
premises
saying
weren't-
that, are you saying that the efficiency standards like passive house are the making it 5% more, or the all electric part?
I think it's just building to the higher efficiency standards, yeah,
That's already part of the building code.
so.
That's
Uh,
not even, that's part of the.
well, I think it's just-
specialized stretch code.
Well, it's part of the specialized stretch code, yeah, but I think the potential. Argument or challenge is that if we want to amend the bylaw to include affordable housing, there could be. I mean, there may be some people who argue that on the grounds that we don't want to make affordable housing cost more and,
Right,
just the idea of having some. Evidence
yeah.
to hopefully support that it's not really costing more. If it is, it's a very small increase. But anyway, my point is, I think. We probably we want to do a little bit of homework just to anticipate potential questions like that.
Can you find any data, or do you have any data on how much it costs to actually run the heating system, heating cooling system in well-built buildings? I mean.
Yeah, I'm
Because,
sure
I
that,
mean, if there's a, 1 or 2 or 3% increase in building costs, what's the payback time of that by lower heating costs?
yeah, and I know there's some evidence out there related to that as well, about the operational costs over
Right,
time. And there's also arguments that if you're going all electric, if you're getting rid of fossil fuels, then you're probably making it a healthier living environment by not,
exactly.
burning natural gas for cooking, and which there's
Mhm.
evidence to suggest that, it's putting things in the air if you're not properly ventilated and so on and so forth. So, there's the argument that, there are those other related factors that, why should, people in affordable housing have a less healthy environment to live in than others,
Right.
So anyway, there's any number of different elements that are involved in that. So I think maybe just kind of having some information.
And some of that should be
Related to that.
just some respectable references in the paper handout that go.
Yeah.
Because in fact, in a public presentation, you can't go very far into the weeds.
Yeah, sure.
You wanna say, there have been studies that are done. And they and arranged, but
Yeah.
so. When the time comes, some committee members could help you with some of that, for the fossil-free, article.
Okay, yeah.
I assume.
Mhm.
I actually heard a builder who said he found it easier to put in air pumps, certainly than building, traditional heating systems on NPR.
Well, and I think.
So I mean, I think there are, I bet we can find data that says something like
Yeah.
to that effect.
And I think you could certainly make and there's, evidence to make the argument that it's especially true with new construction.
Yeah.
Versus trying to do, a renovation of an existing building, which can often be more challenging.
And that's what he was talking about.
Of course, we're suggesting to include major renovations as well as part of these amendments, so. But yeah, I think when it comes to costs, I think the argument is even stronger with new construction that, there's not much of a cost differential if you're building from scratch to make it
Right.
highly efficient and fossil fuel free than there is to do it the traditional.
Right. Okay, and I'm assuming I'm gonna get a presentation together. I started one on the climate goals article, which should be fairly simple, but it'll do that for next month. Okay, so let's see. Who's no? Oh. I don't know what that means. There's, okay, on working group efforts, I don't know, maybe Gavin, do you have any report from the solar task force?
Yeah, definitely. The report's relatively brief tonight. So over the last couple weeks, we've just been following up on sort of building a bulwark for our town meeting warrant article. The 3 sites to identify that we identified to review are the next to the landfill. There's currently a site there, so that we're interested in building another site next to it that's town owned, potentially as well on the rooftop of CCHS and in the drainage catchment area of CCHS. Those are identified as the sites that were they were ground mounted, so they were lower cost. The CCHS rooftop was already sort of designed for solar, so that was lower cost. And they're all on the sort of good bus bar side of the town that has enough space to add solar without extra battery storage. But we are looking to do battery storage on the new landfill site as well. So those are the 3 sites we identified. They're in the warrant article, and we're going to be working with the school district to get support from them essentially for this article. Basically, trying to coordinate with them as they have sort of their own little like city state in the town, being Concord Carlisle Regional School District. So they need to give an official yes. So we'll be working towards that. And that's the sort of shorter term. And the longer term is most likely by this summer, we're going to have a more formal report that's a bit longer and identifies next steps on new solar and especially new battery storage that could really enable sort of working towards the goal of installing more solar in Concord and identifying, is the 20 megawatt goal even viable on town-owned land? Can we do public-private partnerships? Is that something that's strategic for the town? So that'll be a more broadly focused report. And that's what is going to be particularly in the spring and after the town meeting, depending how the town meeting goes. But we'll be working on the longer term report is the main focus. So it's going well overall, in short. And yeah, I'll keep reporting back and hopefully we'll keep making progress.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about that?
Yeah, and like we had mentioned earlier, with Dave leaving, we'll have to make sure that we keep up the progress. He was really great on collaboration, answering questions. So we've been working with Laura Scott at CMLP, and now hopefully the interim director to get support from CMLP and keep working with them every step of the way.
So Gavin, I'm not sure if everyone here has sort of seen or heard what's in that article from the Solar Task Force. So that was the article was it for debt authorization, right? For a certain amount?
Yeah, I could share my screen and do it, or I could talk through step by step next meeting, whatever you think is best. But essentially, yeah, it's all funded by debt authorization through CMLP, and so it's not necessarily asking money from the town. It's asking for bonds essentially for CMLP for the 3 projects identified.
But it becomes cash positive before very long, according to the modeling, right?
Yeah, so on a 20 to 30 year timescale, it becomes cash positive in the teens, in the later teens there. So it is, even with incentives, it's sort of a longer time frame on the investments, but it does turn cash positive and it saves the town a lot of money, especially if prices that we're buying from Eversource go up.
Huh, I thought it was sooner than that. Is that okay?
Yeah, well, if it's helpful, we have been working on sort of adjusting the modeling piece by piece with feedback from Dave, but maybe next meeting I can I'll walk through what it means and sort of the details. And that would probably take like 20 minutes. So I can share it with the committee.
And
Okay,
if you remove the request for batteries, I imagine the costs will go down. And so that the initial cost will go down, and so the payback time would be earlier? Or is that not practical?
So
Mhm.
potentially a lot of the modeling we just focused on the solar, but on the battery side, it's sort of a key strategy for CMLP that they had talked about, and it could help be a real energy saver for them. Instead of turning off the solar panels, we could, if storing in battery would save a lot of money in terms of lost money from curtailment of turning off the solar panels. So batteries are an important strategy, even if there's more of upfront cost, it does help in the long-term financials.
I just want to mention, I had the same perception that Brad mentioned. I forget when it was, maybe it was a year ago or so, but Dean and Charlie and I worked with CMLP on cost modeling. And our assertion was they were way too conservative initially. And after they reviewed our suggestions, they came around and saw our point of view on most items. And at that point, the break-even point, not break-even, the cash flow positive point occurred, I thought it was like in 5 or 6 years, pretty early.
Mhm.
But at any rate, yeah, I look forward to your more detailed presentation next time. That'll answer the questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. I can do that. I think what you mentioned, Jerry, was spot on. We worked with the estimations from CMLP that were definitely on the more conservative side. And we did that in part because, if there are any cost overruns, it's good to be err on the safer side. But yeah, the cost, or the payout was pretty late on with the estimates that CMLP had. So we're still, I guess, workshopping the numbers a little bit to figure that out.
And to be fair to CMLP, all municipal light plants, all utilities are conservative by nature.
Mhm.
So it's not an indictment of CMLP at all.
okay.
Can
Russ,
just
do you
ask
have
a
a
question? So, often, at least in the corporate world, where people think about capital investment, they'll play out different scenarios or based, assumptions. So, given X assumptions, this is sort of what the return looks like, given Y assumptions. So I'm just curious, does the town work that way, or is it really sort of a fixed number? In terms of, because just back to what you're highlighting, I think, Brad, which is that, as you have conversations, any projection is based on what your assumptions are, but in terms of people understanding the reality, it's helpful to actually make that explicit and give a range as opposed to a point answer. Anyway, I'm just curious how that process unfolds.
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So because of how it works with the town meeting warrant article, you can only give one number for asking for a CMLP to do debt issuance. So essentially we went with the most conservative one, and that's the number. We have one number that we stick with, but in our modeling, we did do different scenarios, 3 different ones. More conservative, moderate, or like benefit, or like everything, opportune, I guess, opportunity. So yeah, it's a good question, but we went with the conservative one, just so because we have to ask for the money from the town, essentially.
Right. Got it. But presumably from a communications perspective, you can also communicate that, this is conservative and there are other, right, as well, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's
Yeah.
also, as I recall, during our discussions at that time, there were scenarios modeled for with and without grants. And so the conservative approach is to rely on no grants, when in fact there is a reasonable likelihood we could get some grants somewhere for a certain amount. Wouldn't change the big picture, but it would change the point at which we become cash flow positive. But at any rate, I know in that regard, CMLP did exactly that, with and without grants.
Mhm. Yeah, and the
Yeah.
number that we came up with was without grants, but it did include incentives from the IRA.
Yeah,
Right. Okay, very good. On, the metrics and reporting, now, you haven't had a meeting, I don't think, since our last, but,
No, I'm just trying to put in as much of the information as I can and kind of develop I don't know, a template, if you will, for, how we could regularly update it.
in the MAPC, spreadsheet.
Yeah, well, you'd use the MAPC spreadsheet to kind of do the calculation, but what I was trying to look at is what summarizing in one file all the data that would go into that.
Right.
So that we could kind of year over year, hey, this is really the most important number to track. That goes into the footprint. So maybe theoretically it'd be easier to do so, year over year. Not that we are gonna necessarily do the update of the footprint year over year, but, let's say, we decide that tracking residential home energy, which is a number that's fairly easy to get from
Yeah.
CMLP, it's something that we want to track year over year. So, let's key in on that. So, anyway, so that's what I've been doing, making sure that I'm sourcing everything to the original data. Where did we get it? Just like we have the document that provides that from Kate when Kate was the director. I'm not gonna recreate that document, but at least make a note of where did we get it. Wondered, Eric, if you'd had a chance, probably not, given the holiday, but to look at mining some of the data out of the is it MEI?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have not yet.
so I'm getting to the point where that would be,
Okay.
will be
Yeah,
helpful.
that shouldn't be too hard to do.
Maybe we could even do it together when we
Yeah.
meet again.
Are you getting together the end of this week? Oh, is it
Yeah, I
next,
think it's next week.
next
It's
week?
next Friday, yeah. And I'm kind of summarizing a lot of the vehicle census data.
Okay,
currently. I don't think we'll need all of it, but trying to see what's there
and I
what's relevant.
realized I had suggested. I didn't actually get around to calling on this person I work with who knows that vehicle data
Oh, yeah.
quite well.
Oh, yeah.
Will it, if that's useful, I can try to,
Remind me what we were,
well, the
You were
question
gonna
is, does that vehicle data have all the information you need to know how much, to know how much gas was burned? Gasoline was consumed by all those vehicles,
I think it,
because it tells you how many EVs there are and how many gasoline vehicles, but I wasn't sure.
it does have an average mileage per day. Give me a week or so, maybe when we meet again next Friday, and I might be able to
Okay,
better answer that before you make the call.
okay, I mean,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It might be an estimate still, but I think it's better than what we did 2020. I don't think we had any of
Right.
that data, we're making some large guesses. One question that was coming up, I think I sent it to you, related to the assessors. There's lots of codes. Thank you. I
Right.
used the information that you kind of reworked from the assessors database. There's
Right.
still lots of code.
and a lot of those codes are like one or two.
There are one or two apps. So I made some reasonable assumptions, but let's just see if they have any. more
Yeah, I haven't had a
information.
chance to reach out to them
Yeah,
yet, but
that's fine.
yeah,
That's
I
fine.
will.
For now, I'm gonna move forward, but, and I looked back at the 2020 data, it's 2019 actually, to see how it compared and okay, this is a reasonable guess, so, and I documented it, we can go back.
Oh, okay.
But that's where I'm at, so I think getting the municipal data summarized and the vehicle data, those are two big chunks. And then we'll see where we stand, so let's hope I get a little time to do that between now and our next meeting, and hopefully we'll have something a little bit, more there.
Did we get anything more from National Grid on
Data in between.
heating accounts versus non-heating accounts, commercial?
No, I'll have to
versus
follow up
residential?
with them. I, sent them that inquiry a little while back. They had said it might take some time. So, but I'll follow up with them and see if they can sort of let me know where things stand with that.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, because I had sent them I sent them the spreadsheet that you had sent me, sort of outlining
Right.
how it had been broken down.
Exactly, good.
So they have that to work with. But I'll follow up with them and see what that is.
The last thing I'll mention, and I don't have it worked out yet, but I want to look into it a little bit, is the way that, commercial is estimated,
Yeah,
for heating oil. It's a little wonky.
there aren't too many commercial heating oils, but there might be a,
There aren't, and we
Nope.
have the list of, we have the list of the buildings theoretically
yeah,
that are in town. But the way that the MAPC tool does it is based on kind of, what is your economic output? Different types, it's really wonky, I was looking at it, and I'm like, what in the world are they doing? But of course, it's established, right? The tool is pretty established, and so this method is pretty established. I don't quite know the method. I'm gonna look into it a little bit. We may just go with it because it might be in the scheme of things, a small part of our footprint. But I'll get back to you.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was a little like, oh, okay.
I mean, probably most of the oil burning commercial accounts are churches and stuff like that.
It's a really small list, and so I'm like, is there a better way to
Yeah.
figure this out thing? I don't know, but that's a big deal. But while I have the floor, you don't have it as a line item, but I thought it worth following up on the resiliency stuff,
Okay.
since Paul's not here. So Eric and Paul and I, had some back and forth right before, it was beginning of December. And what we decided on, short story, is that Concord needs to go through the next, the version 2.0 MVP planning. To basically be eligible for any more resiliency grants through that program. Not that we've had a lot of luck, but in terms of, winning those grants. There is, so we need to do that.
And what does that
At least stay in
mean?
good standing.
What does that entail?
Well, I might be able to explain.
Go for it. Yeah, you looked into it a bit.
Yeah, so
That's what you were
I
talking
just had a
about.
conversation on Monday. With with our MVP program coordinator for this region about this. So we were, there had been talk about potentially pursuing the action grant to support the climate vulnerability assessment, some piece of a climate vulnerability assessment, like a hydrologic study or something else. And so when I started looking into that, within the RFP, there was a list of towns that it said, if you're on this list, you need to go through the MVP 2.0 process in order to be eligible for action grants. And the 2.0 process is basically a new approach that the MVP program is taking. So there was I guess a number of years ago, there was the 1.0 process, which really focused on looking at vulnerability of infrastructure. So the focus was on infrastructure. And going through that process, the program determined that process lacked some other elements. And so this 2.0 is getting all the MVP communities to sort of go through a second process, which is really intended to focus on social resilience around vulnerability. And so all the MVP communities are being required to go through the 2.0 process in order to have continue their eligibility for other MVP grants like action grants.
Okay,
We happen to be on the list of ones who need to do that sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Based on when we first got our MVP status, I guess. And so I had a conversation with as I said, on Monday to try to figure out what that means. That essentially what it means is we need to go through a process where we have to bring together, the town would work with a vendor, bring together stakeholders around social resilience to look at our previous MVP 1.0 proposal and look at the vulnerabilities that were in there, and this time look at it through social resilience. So you would bring different stakeholders together, you would have a series of meetings, you would get input, and after a year, that would lead to a seed project. So you're guaranteed $50,000 to do a seed project
Okay,
on something social resilience
Yeah.
focused.
so,
So what you can do, so that MVP 2.0 process is probably a 2-year process. You could, in theory, simultaneously, if you're in that process, you can apply for action grants. But the idea is that going through that process is supposed to probably help inform what you want to do for action grants. So ultimately, what I think it means for us right now is that we're probably not in a position to apply for an action grant this spring.
okay,
But what we should be doing, and what I think we're intending to do is put in the proposal to do this, start this 2.0 process this spring, so that would put us in position for next spring to be able to do action grants, and through that process, maybe we would be able to better structure an action grant that's gonna be more fundable in some ways. That's a social resilience component.
so. I know what social means, and I know what resilience means, but I don't know what social resilience really means. Is that, how many homes get flooded, or, the,
It's what happens, so. The idea of, and particularly, I think it's particularly focused on the socially vulnerable populations, and so.
okay,
Yeah.
You know, if a neighborhood that has more socially vulnerable folks, were flooded, let's say.
yeah,
What resources do they have to continue to, you know, to meet their needs, basically, to get their needs
Okay.
met? So, for instance, let's say you've got a community that, you know, is non-native English speaking population. And they, you know, heavily rely on, you know, this set of stores and businesses for employment and for food and for, you know, what have you. And suddenly those routes to those places are flooded. What, you know, what then, right? What resilience
Right.
would they have? And so it's kind of looking at it from that perspective.
And also building, you know, this social network.
Right,
right.
That can inform that resilience and then be able to respond to those vulnerabilities. So it's kind of part of that. So it goes beyond the technical infrastructure elements to look at it as more of
Yeah.
a.
I guess I would
fabric of the
think that
community.
it's, where our problem here now isn't so much lack of English, but it's retired
Yeah.
people that are, not driving.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
can't get around, and they all live in certain
Absolutely.
places. And
Which
that
is-
would be the focus.
In the past, and so it's interesting because environmentally vulnerable populations or I don't know, there's an acronym, but they have in the last couple of years been defined a certain way. And I think we're on the cusp of seeing that broaden. And for us as Concord, it wasn't advantageous for us. We could, defined by the way that the state was defining it, we were kind of left out. If you want to say that, left out of the opportunities because we didn't have some of those populations that met that specific criteria. And I think we may be seeing a shift towards broadening that, because we've argued for a couple of years when we did the previous applications, we do have an aged population here in Concord that, you know, just as you said, don't all have transportation options and,
Yeah,
but it just didn't meet the criteria,
right.
the way it was being defined. So it's, you know, it's a possibility that it will broaden in the future. I saw, I don't want to get us too far off track, but I saw some documentation that, town of Winchester, or city, yeah, town of Winchester, had put forth some criticism of the MVP program for the reasons that, just
Okay.
that it's difficult for some towns to participate because the criteria doesn't fit them, but yet
Right.
they still they have needs related to resiliency. So anyway, so I think there's some things afoot.
Okay.
And yeah, and this is even a new process for MVP, so
Right.
this spring, they did a pilot round of this MVP 2.0 process, and they're sort of working through it now, I think, in learning
Right.
stuff
Figure it
that
out.
the next round will hopefully benefit from. And it's interesting because they say, you're supposed to submit a proposal, but it's sort of flipped because you're not submitting an idea that you want funded, you basically are proposing that you're gonna go through this process,
Yeah.
and by going through this process, at the end, towards the end, you'll come up with a seed project idea
Yeah.
that they'll fund.
Right.
So it's a little bit flipped. But they actually have a lot of detailed information around the process that I'm sorting through right now, and with the intent of having us positioned to apply for that, and get that process started this spring.
Okay.
But we had said when we were back and forth with the three of us, you and I, Paul, that we should get a regular meeting on the
Yeah.
calendar, so let's do that so that we can kind of keep.
Very
moving from
good.
there.
Excellent. Okay. And we don't probably have more on municipal electrification stuff.
No, I mean, I mentioned the deep energy audits that, we're gonna continue to work on, and then, there's some continuing conversations. There's been a little bit of a lull, with the holidays, about investigating the possibility of, hopefully engaging the schools to consider doing a heat pump,
Yeah.
hybrid option at
The
the
Alcott.
school. I need to go back to the schools and talk to them a little bit more about that. I don't know that there's actually any capital funds for that to happen, in the next year. So I think I need to talk to them about the timing of that. And they've talked about the fact that they're doing this existing condition study right now across all their facilities, and so we kind of have to go back and see where this might fit. I mean, we had conversations with the consultants who did the feasibility study, got some more information from them. So we're trying to move forward with that, and hopefully there'll be some common ground or pathway to try to continue to
Yeah.
advance that potential project for that school, so,
Right.
yeah, so, I mean, yeah, it's a little, I'm. In their defense, the schools probably feel like they're getting a lot of sustainability related requests lately, everything from Alcott building to solar task force looking at solar on school property to, there's always the interest in electric school buses, so there's any number of moving pieces. But for me personally, I really would like to see, try to see us move forward with the Alcott project if we can. So, and then not too distant future.
Okay. So next on the agenda is talking about this campaign and that I've been dreaming up for the last couple of months, and we had a really useful meeting with Jan Setti today at the light plant, who I can summarize it. So she got together, she took the kind of the draft ideas for the campaign that I sent around that we looked at, and they discussed it with the heating and cooling coaches. Oh, I should mention, there's one other piece of news from CMLP is they've now hired those coaches who used to work for Abode Energy Management. So now they're CMLP employees. And that's been a ton of work for Jan to make that happen. But I think it's very positive because they have those two guys plus an ex-coach have a lot of experience now. And they're getting better and better at talking to homeowners. And they had some concerns about what we were, thinking about proposing. And you know, one of the things is that they have with the Concord Clean Comfort program that Jan has been running with the coaches is now a pretty established brand, and it is more comprehensive than I thought. I think they really are working on helping homeowners with energy audits, evaluating their homes, whether they're good for heat pumps, helping them through that journey. And we want to support that, but they were very concerned that if we come up with a different set of messages, if our messages are different, it causes more confusion than help. Now, one of the good things is those coaches are not as busy as they can be. There's a lot of capacity there. Partially because Jan's been so busy that they haven't publicized that service recently. So she very much welcomes us to do promotion that leads people into that pipeline. They were concerned that if we're providing technical information, it has to be accurate and appropriate and not conflict with the information that they provide. And that's that makes sense, and it's obvious, right? But it's also obvious that if you're not careful, you provide conflicting information. In particular, she wanted to make it clear that we shouldn't be doing something we call coaching. We should do promotion and lead people to the coaches, and interest people in why they want to do. What are the benefits of getting your home energy audit, and here's where you go. So those were her main points of concerns. Besides the fact that they have a website that's pretty well developed and supported, and that she is concerned if we have a separate campaign website. Well, what does that mean? How does that what confusion might that cause? And I think we can sort that out. She had some really good ideas that got me thinking. I was really relieved after talking to her, because she's so busy, and yet when she puts her mind to something, she really does, and comes out with well thought out ideas, because this is her world. And she suggested possibly, we talked about having some house parties, like invite people over, see what a house is like with induction cooking and heat pumps. She was all over that. And she thinks having, she called them green home tours, like the garden tour that you could go on at some time of year. In the winter, if you had a green home tour, and you could experience how comfortable Janet's place is with her heat pumps and induction cooking, or other homes in neighborhoods that we're targeting. That would be really positive. Could be really positive. And that could be something we come up with a playbook. We find a couple of homeowners in different neighborhoods, and we publicize it, and it's just like the garden tour. And the coaches are there it's a matter of getting people to say, I like this. I want to do that. She suggested another thing, which is also interesting, which would be she called them Super Citizen Awards. She was thinking in terms of like a yearly award for super citizens who do the most for the environment. Because I don't know how we would pull that off, but it is an idea. And it's just normalizing, like, wow. There are still so many people who will think, oh, this isn't even possible. What you're telling me to do, I don't think it's possible, because I talked to a heating contractor and they said it wasn't a good idea. So doing something like a award could be of interest. And I remember in CAB, there was, and CSEC, there were talks of different sorts of awards that were about stuff, and we could think of that, about that. That wouldn't necessarily be part of a campaign, but it is an idea that she thought was potentially worth doing. She also talked, sent information about well, so Abode has participating contractor lists. You can go on their website and find out a bunch of weatherization contractors and then call one of them. And originally I had thought, well, that's just that's a bottleneck. You got to figure out who to call, and maybe you don't have good experience with contractors. And if you had a selected contractor and you push the button and they came over and gave you a quote, that would be simpler. But she's convinced me that that's probably not really doable. It is doable. People do that, but it's not. It's anti-competitive. It can be anti-competitive. So either using Abode's contractor list, but trying to route people there, or doing a participating contractor list of our own for a handful of contractors that want to do a bunch of weatherization, let's say in Concord, could be doable. And it would be doing through a request for qualifications rather than a request for a proposal. So all this got me thinking differently than I had been thinking about. So this is what I spent the afternoon after our meeting thinking about, like, how can we scale back but do something useful and involve as many of us on the committee as we can. And I really like the idea of the green home tours. Maybe in like the month of March, where it still is cold and you're tired of winter, and it's enough time that we could probably arrange something like that. And so that's a project in itself. We'd have to solicit homeowners and organize some, that event and publicize it and summarize it. I like that idea. Getting doing lawn signs. She was positive about, well, it's the social pressure of your neighbors are doing this. and you can do it too. And that's often invisible, because, you know, when you look at a house, you don't know how it's heated, unless they have something hanging on the side, and then you think it's, well, maybe that's a little ugly. So it's, so lawn signs, that are in visible locations. Soliciting testimonials from homeowners like we did with CSEC. We have done that a few years back. Where we got a bunch of testimonials,
And they're still up on the web or when,
still up on the web,
but who knows if anybody sees them?
they see them.
They
The
do.
coaches point people at them.
Oh, okay.
Jan's website, sends people to those testimonials. So that was good work.
Mhm.
And it was a fair amount of work to put them together, but it was of value. It's still used.
Mhm.
And that could be. We could think of some more testimonials involving induction cooking or involving other things that go along with electrification. Getting some videos made about key technologies just for publicizing. I think videos go a long way as part of a social media campaign or something like that. And then, so past the, if we really want to do a campaign at some level, we could do, promotion through tabling at school events. She suggested going out in front of Crosby's or something like that. That could be something our committee could do if we had the materials together. It could be after church, or it could be, there's, public places where people go. And, another idea was, we did a climate festival a couple of years ago. And, with other groups. In
The one
April,
in front of high school,
what did you say?
the one in front of the high school, a
What,
few years ago.
we did it in conjunction with the high school and stuff. It was at the library a couple of years ago. But that is something one could do. Bunch of work. It's fun. And then it's over.
That was the first of the 5 events. Is that what you're talking about? The one that was on the library lawn?
Well, when we had that, yeah, when CSEC did all those 5 events. I think the festival was probably one of the
Yes.
ones which impacted the most people.
Yes, I think so.
What was the huge one in front of the high school though? Wasn't that environmental something or other? I know.
We did the
There was,
That was a Black Earth.
the
and it was two-
landscaping one. That was a sustainable landscaping one a couple of years ago.
No, I mean, it was a lot. I mean, White Pond Advisory Committee was there. I mean, the bee pollinators committee was there. The 2 composts, the Black Earth, and there was another one there. Organic farmers were there. It was huge in front of the high school.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
5 years ago or something.
Sustainable landscaping. CSEC organized that.
Yeah, but it was huge. It was in the high school. And it was a lot.
Yeah,
of things,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was.
That's what I was thinking because it was huge. I mean, it was very, very well.
yeah,
attended.
right, 2017 was the Cool Corporate Fair. Is that 2017?
It was in February of 2017.
Yeah, and then,
So it might have been 2018 when we did
and
that.
then 2019 was the landscaping fair,
Okay.
and then there was COVID.
And then, yeah, so each of these is a project in itself. And so it would take an extra effort. But it would need a leader and some volunteers to work with them. I just want to get people's sense what one of these things which are members of the committee most interested in doing. And we don't have to do a final decision, but, I think we're all, capable of planning cabling or collateral, materials or lawn signs or working with students on videos or something.
Well, I found it, I mean, the reason I got my heat pumps was because I was invited to somebody's house and they presented, that was when there was a coalition between Lincoln and Concord or whatever for, well, an interest-free loan for a year or whatever it was, but I mean, it was going to somebody's house and seeing it, certainly thought was very useful, it's what I decided me.
Was that part of the Heat Smart program?
It was about 6 years ago.
Yeah, okay, good.
So I mean, I think something like that, I already know somebody who's, I can think of a family that I think has completely converted to heat pumps, pretty much. Although they did have a complaint because they didn't quite make the right number, so they didn't get reimbursed, but I know a family who probably would be interested in that. My sister just did it up in Albany, and Lake Placid.
Okay. So that's along the lines of the home tours.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I market it, but yeah, I mean,
I'm having a hard time hearing some of it.
I don't know how you would market it, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that was useful because you're going into. If you, assuming you find people who are willing to do it, you have time for one-on-one, you're talking to the coaches, you don't have to make an appointment to meet with the coaches, it seems like.
Right,
You're hitting a lot of people. But I mean, the biggest part is finding, once you have the homes, is getting people to come.
right.
Because you have to have somebody spend the time and open it up and one person comes, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Marketing.
Yeah, I mean, if it has to be publicized well enough and, which I think can be done. Now it could be publicizing in the neighborhood, or I guess it should be maybe town-wide and have several locations. Although you can't have too many locations because you don't have that many coaches. They've had one coach at a couple of different locations.
We've only got 2 coaches to work with, right?
Well, there's one ex-coach, Jeff Fritsch, who is also kind of knowledgeable,
Mhm.
but you're right, yeah.
I mean, that's. I don't know if that, I guess I was wondering if we had a demand for more than 2 or 3 coaches at a time, whether. We could borrow one from Heat Smart Alliance or somebody else,
Okay, good point.
You know,
That's a
maybe
good
say,
idea.
even though it's. A little different, but that, maybe they'd be willing to, somebody would be willing from a different town to come over and, somebody who's been trained to come over and. Step in for a day or.
I think you're probably right. As long as they get the message right.
Yeah.
You're doing them during a different day, different times is also valuable because some families, weekends are impossible and
Yeah.
with kid events, and then for some weekends are just the only time they can do it. So I think even if you only have the 3 coaches, you can change the times. It doesn't have to be
All of
like the garden to where
Right.
it's Sunday from 1 to 11 to 1. I mean, I think that's probably not advisable.
right,
Because people have different schedules and
Yeah.
different.
I think that's a good idea, because they won't go to all 5 houses or however many are open. 1 or 2 would be enough.
Times.
yeah, okay.
And if videos, the kids are really great at making videos and editing the videos, but who writes the script?
Well. I mean, we could write this, we could write scripts.
Mhm.
We did videos for the Heat Smart program where we. Kind of scripted it, and then the homeowners. Well, actually, the homeowners scripted it. And then with the Cooler Concord Fair, they did videos where the kids scripted it, and they were fun. But
I don't remember well enough what was that.
I don't know if they're probably still on the YouTube channel somewhere. But But I don't know, but that could be a bunch of work. Um.
To me, I mean, one of the things I think for students to get involved in would actually be encouraging the school committees to allow solar panels. I mean, it's their schools, it's
Mhm.
their, to me, they've invested, the families are invested. To me, that would be a great place to use students. Right, if the school committee is reluctant.
Yeah, I missed the point. So,
Well, I'm just saying it's a good use of students.
Yeah.
Rather than videos, I mean, I think if they,
Getting
if
them
school committees,
advocating for.
yeah, advocating,
Yeah.
for the use of the roof of the high school and, you know, if anybody was reluctant.
yeah. What do people think about doing something, an April climate festival type of event? Which is different than the home tours, but it's, you know, some collaborating with like Mothers Out Front or the Emerson Umbrella. The Umbrella did a festival last year, the Muskogee Earth Day Festival, but then they scaled it way back.
Okay.
And it was almost, it was very little. It's kind of a shame.
They started it, but they didn't, they had to.
Well, they,
Smaller. Or-
they were gonna do it together with, Concord Academy, and then Concord Academy got busy, and then they decided to just scale it way back to
Hmm.
be, not so much, but what year did we do that? That was,
There was something a couple of years ago, it was on the old men's grounds, and I think it was somewhere down there where Muskogee had all these tables out, and I remember Melissa Simoncini was out there, and a bunch of other people, I don't remember. Well, I don't remember
What the
which
event?
organizations, but there were several tables.
And there was a ride and drive event across the street.
There was, that's true, it was, yes.
I don't
I don't
remember.
remember who organized it either.
How about tying it in with the jet expansion? That would bring a lot of people.
Brad, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, is it possible to ask a question
Sure.
and maybe throw in a couple of ideas? And
Absolutely.
I apologize, I'm a newbie to a lot of this, but I am
Why don't you
at
introduce
least
yourself?
enthusiastic
Russ.
to try to be helpful. So my name is Russ Eisenstadt, and been in Concord for 20 plus years, had 3 kids go through the Concord school system. I'm still learning a lot about climate change, but feel like it's really something fundamental, and I want to try to make a difference. Totally energized about what you guys are up to, and excited to dive in and try to be helpful. And you have to forgive me because I'll ask a lot of dumb questions along the way, but also maybe throw in some ideas. So, you know, and the way, part of the way Brad and I connected is that I had 2 of my air conditioning zones go out in my house, and I had to replace them, and it was incredibly hot in the middle of the summer, and you know, I decided to put in heat pumps, right? But it was a close call at the point, and talked to Brad, and you know, did a testimonial for that and so on. So I sort of was a little bit of a trial by fire. And so I guess there are a couple of things that I was just thinking about my own experience, like really simple things that would have made a big difference for me. And I wonder whether they might be helpful for other people as well, which is just like a simple FAQ, you know, simple questions on the website that might be really helpful for somebody. And I think maybe even just talking to some people who were in that situation about, geez, what did you wish you would have known? Because, you know, what happened for me, and I have a lot of friends, it's been the same thing, where the decisions comes up on you very quickly. You know, I just had another friend whose heating system went out in the middle of the winter. Rather environmentally involved, but he's got to do something very quickly. And so you really want good information quickly. And the problem that I had is that, can you really trust the contractors? Because the contractors they're not necessarily environmentally focused. They're used to doing what they're doing, and even if they install heat pumps, how much do they really know about the efficiencies and the trade-offs? I'll give you a very simple example, which is they told me, we have a dual system, and they told me that they should set the changeover temperature at like 30 degrees. And I thought, well, a lot of the time in Concord is below 30 degrees. And am I defeating the point from an energy saving perspective in terms of and maybe I need to be setting it that way, but I didn't really have information about the trade-off of cost versus energy efficiency in that context. I didn't really know what to be looking at. So, I think maybe this is part of what the coaches can be doing, but it just did strike me that there may be some very simple questions if we think about our website and things that could be really helpful to people in that circumstance. The other thing that I've experienced in other contexts is, talking to somebody who's been where you are. Brad and I talked about the fact that I have a hearing problem as well. And, Brad, you were talking about that. I made a decision to get a cochlear implant, which was a major decision. And the wonderful thing that the company did is they said, well, we'll connect you to somebody who's gone through the process. And just talking to them at the right time was unbelievably powerful for me, right? I mean, and if I talked to them 6 months earlier, it wouldn't have mattered, but the fact that they were on call, I would be happy to talk to people about my experience and what I wish I knew and what that was about. And geez, the heat's a lot better now than it was before and so on. So I'm just thinking of, are there some other things that we can do in addition to the stuff, Brad, you've talked about that might be pretty low cost, like, updating the website with FAQs and really thinking about what are the things that you wish you knew as a homeowner, or what are the 5 things you'd want to ask a contractor to actually know about. The session we were at yesterday around Mass Energize, where they were talking about how, contractors aren't necessarily particularly sophisticated about this stuff. But you, as a homeowner, you're really at a disadvantage because they sort of talk technical jargon and you don't really know the right stuff to answer, and they tend to be dismissive of homeowners. So anyway, I was just wondering about those as potential other things. I would certainly be happy to raise my hand and, try to help put in some sweat equity on the website and some other areas, but I just wanted to pitch those kind of into the conversation as a couple of ideas.
Yeah. Thanks, very good, good comments, and we should look at the website that CMLP has put together and make sure that in terms of the I think there's various pages with FAQs and information here and there to make sure to try to complement it with the right sort of information. But what you're suggesting is being not so much an energy coach role, but talk to someone who's done it.
On the other side, exactly, Brad. That's sort of from the consumer perspective, and I don't think it's obviously not a substitute for the coach in any way, shape, or form, but it could be a complement. I think, relative to websites, I totally agree. Clearly we would need to be partnering with them, and maybe it's a joint question, which is just to really think through, well, what is the right information, and maybe we have suggestions for their website or ours. So it should be seamless, clearly, between what we're talking about and them. So it's less important whose website it is than just sort of working it through in partnership. I totally agree with you. You don't want to confuse people.
Right.
And happy to, happy to take a look at their website with you and think think through that and have a follow-up conversation or whatever about, you know, kind of working it through yeah, and anyway, in terms of just maybe doing some brainstorming about what some of that
Yeah.
might look like.
Now, some of what you're saying is making me think of what Jerry mentioned the other day about writing articles for the bridge. Or that's seen by a lot of eyes about how many people are doing stuff.
One column I've got in mind, although I haven't done anything on it, is just one on electric homes, all electric homes. I think, well, I'm not sure how much knowledge there is in town that we have a number of highly efficient homes. And folks that might be interested but don't know where to turn might find an article like that, you know, very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But another thought came to mind listening to Russ talk. And this is not my idea. This came from others out front. But preparing some sort of guide for homeowners in anticipation of needing to replace their heating system on an emergency basis. So, you know, I think a lot of people, myself included, have been caught being unprepared in the middle of the winter when the heating system fails.
Right.
You know, firsthand experience says you don't mess around.
Exactly. You don't want to freeze.
That's right. So when I heard this idea a couple of years ago, I think from Gilda, it resonated quite a bit with me. Maybe it's just because of my personal experience, but I think if we could, maybe working with the heat pump coaches, come up with a template or some sort of suggested procedures for people to take when they're not under the gun, such that they're ready to go when the inevitable day comes.
No, Jerry, that's exactly where I was going as well. Exactly, because you don't have the ability then to do some of that work. And even if you don't do all of it, at least you know who to call at that point. You know, at a minimum, you have the number for the the heating coach, and even knowing that the two people are out there, you know, would be terrific. And I think, you know, and that connects, I think, to your point of, you know, then you have the article in the Bridge where you really maybe highlight some of that, you know, in terms of what some of those resources are. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And, you know, you could take then those articles and have them available on the website, you know, as reference, so it's not just goes out. But I think there's some great ways on the communication front of doing some I think, stuff that could really move things forward. Yeah.
I'm thinking, there are places that only have oil heat. There's some roads we know that only have oil heat. Is there any way we can send postcards or letters to residents at, you know, all these different places saying, you know, advising them, think about what's going to happen when your furnace dies.
Yeah.
These are the options. So just to draw them in some way.
Right. In fact, Jan, who we talked to today, has a postcard like that practically sitting ready to send out.
Okay.
But and didn't she say that she was preparing to do it, just hasn't gotten to it. And now,
Is she sending it out broadly or just to specific areas?
well, one could do it to you know, certain precincts.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious
Yeah.
what she thought was the best. I was just
But
curious.
I don't
what she
know.
thought. Yeah,
I don't know what the best way. I mean, originally I was thinking it was going to be people knocking on doors and leaving door hangers and stuff. But you have to have the right information and be ready. Yeah, so that. I was getting a little daunted by that. Yeah,
You were talking a moment ago about something, an event in April. Is that-
well, yeah, I just wanted to gauge the appetite for doing something like that, climate fair,
Mhm.
where we don't have to be the lead organization. We could be one of several. Because when it happens, it's a really good event, it's a really nice time of year, gets a lot of people thinking. You can connect them with, with heat pump coaches and energy planning on when induction stoves and, sustainable landscaping at the same time.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea. And certainly to get mothers out front. Does Bill McKibben's third act, I don't know whether there's any organization in Concord on this, around the third act.
I don't know, I know Third Act's is planning to go down, do civil disobedience in Washington next month, but that's a different thing.
That is, but it
Yeah.
shows their existence.
Right. We should get in touch with, Mothers Out Front and see if they are thinking about something like this, because, they've been kind of quiet, or else I'm not on their email list anymore.
Yeah, I don't seem to get their emails anymore either, but but occasionally I hear from Laura.
Yeah,
Yeah. But they certainly were very
so,
good a couple of years ago. They did a lot of work
yeah,
for the, I remember Laura bringing all these toys in a toy house with electric cars.
no, that was good.
That was cute. And, they had, I think they had an induction, cooktop. They
Right,
were doing,
Strawberries,
different strawberries and chocolate for people. I
right.
mean, there were fun things like that they organized. And CMMP was there.
Let's see what they're planning.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that would be good.
Okay, we're almost out of time. So I heard positives on the home tours. And,
Mhm.
and considering doing something in April
Right.
as two sort of sub-projects.
Mhm.
Let's try to develop those concepts a bit and, maybe, well, get in touch with people about the climate, the idea of a climate festival. And, Laura was one who was interested also in the home tour thing.
Who's Laura Biden?
Laura would be good to talk to about the festival as well, because she played a leading role in organizing
Yeah,
the festival at the library.
right. I recall.
I'm not volunteering in any way here, but just be very upfront. I got enough on my
Yeah.
plate right now, but I wonder if some synergy with the high school groups. If we're to do something in April, or if maybe it's not April, maybe it's
Right.
fall because we need more time, which is very reasonable.
Mhm,
Don't you
I think
think?
April too.
But like there's at least three climate related, sustainability related groups at the high school. Student groups, maybe we can leverage
Absolutely. No, that's a
what
very,
they're doing and, what they'd be willing to,
absolutely. And, it would be a mistake to do it without
yeah,
the schools.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, maybe from that regard, thinking about April would be better because you've got. Kids have been mobilized now, right, for a little while, and if
Right.
you wait until fall, they're just getting going again.
Right.
So, maybe
You've got a lot of seniors in April who, they've been accepted into colleges.
Yeah.
They don't care about their schoolwork anymore,
Yeah,
really.
give them something to do.
Grace isn't on anymore, unfortunately,
Grace is
but.
one of those.
It's one of them, yeah, you know, I just think, I'm just thinking about the things that you're talking about and I'm trying to think. Where's our biggest impact, you know, because all great ideas, but there's only however many there are of us.
Right,
There's only so many resources to go around, you know, where can we make our biggest impact in infrastructure, we talk about teaching the kids so they'll teach the parents,
Mhm.
right? And I don't think we're teaching the kids in this case, but I think, you know,
Engaging
just
them.
engaging them and getting
Yeah.
them to do what they already do. So. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't volunteer.
okay, that,
I hate to throw out ideas when I can't actually. but-
no, that's
Happy to
good. That,
help, But not lead.
that about,
I love the home tour idea as well. I think that would be really cool if we could figure out how to advertise it.
And it could just be part of the FAQ thing, and you might have just people who
Yeah.
are willing to open their doors when the
Yeah.
somebody comes, and then it doesn't even have to necessarily be that organized.
Yeah,
Just somebody saying, come to my house and I will show you and talk to you
yeah.
and, you
yeah,
know, let's arrange a time with the coach, right? I mean, it could be that simple.
I think the other thing we could think about, and this is not, you know, I don't, Eric could be certainly under your purview, but, Gavin brought it up at the beginning when Gavin, sorry, Gavin, I'm like, I bent my back to you, but, when he's joined the committee, getting a bigger presence in social media and on the web, we just don't, we don't have that.
right,
And I think it would really benefit us, for anything we're doing, if we could just grow that. Maybe that's what we should focus on, is just growing our social.
growing our visibility,
Yeah, growing what are,
right,
there's lots of good things that are happening, but I don't know that the visibility is out there, so maybe that's something to focus on.
Well, I can do, my school does it. I mean, just one of the speech people was the one that's got her Instagram account going and getting pictures and all that. I mean, it doesn't need huge investment of time. Assuming you get the right person.
Yeah, true.
yeah,
I have a
Stop coming up on Instagram at least once a week.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. I was just
Oh.
gonna say, I think one strategy for that could be trying to partner with the town of Concord social media and see if we can
Yeah.
send them stuff to post out that we like, because they have a big following already. And then the other thing too about the spring festival, if we could plan that around Earth Day if we weren't already. I think that's like late April. Could be kind of a fun way to anchor it.
I didn't hear all of that.
and he thought if we did something in April, do it around Earth Day. Or
Yes.
do it in conjunction with Earth Day, which makes total sense.
I agree with that.
If we can mobilize.
Okay. And your brother was involved in the last fair, I remember.
Yeah, he's a junior at CCHS still, so he would probably be involved again.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good. Okay, I think we're out of time. In terms of our 7 to 9. We didn't get to everything. We can skip the last.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you need to take any public comments?
Yes, we should see, would anybody like to make, anybody? We're welcome to hear anything that, the public would like to say. It's one person I don't know, but.
It's not.
Okay.
No, I think it's just the cursor.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it? Okay. Okay.
So
So,
wait,
Yes.
oh, yes,
So
hello,
I think that, Brad, I think Elizabeth has her hand up.
good. Elizabeth,
Unmute.
Okay. I might, there aren't that many people here, so I guess I've been listening all this time, so I am interested. I came back after 17 years living in California. I raised my kids here and I'm back. And this is just, I was on an HOA board out in California and we were trying, and we had ancient infrastructure and buildings, and we were trying to begin to do things about converting our natural gas furnaces to heat pumps. As they wore out. I was in a cooperative. as they wore out, that was gonna be the plan. We were doing pilot studies of what it would cost and what we'd have to do. One of the biggest constraints was electrical. So oddly enough, I just bought a place in Concord Green. And it's natural gas, and part of our HOA fee is paying for the heat. So there are lots of disincentives to converting anything to electricity because it's already paid for in HOA dues, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, I've just begun to work on this. And I moved in here thinking, boy, at some time it would be nice to have an induction stove and you know, just swap out the natural gas, the gas burners I have.
Yeah.
And at some point it would be nice to, when my AC dies, you know, or my furnace dies, to convert to heat pump. The heat pump thing I think is really, really long range but anyway, all that aside, we have electrical constraints here. The buildings were built in the late 70s. There are 200 units here.
Yeah.
The place is prime for conversion but there are all sorts of institutional constraints, infrastructure constraints. Anyway, so I'm trying to get my feet in the water. I was renting in Acton, so I went to Energize Acton meetings over the summer before I bought this place. And they're talking about all the same stuff you're talking about. Abode, which sounds like they're the people that they've been going to. They're trying to have, they're talking about having, you know, like little open house where, you know, they've got some, well, I'm in a multifamily. They're talking about going to some multifamily neighborhoods as well as going to some other neighborhoods, and where they've gotten interest from the people that live in those communities to learn about whether they're converting from heating oil with baseboard heat to, or, you know, to mini splits or whatever, seeing what they can do. I would, over the longer term, it would be fun to try to see what we can do here. It's a real challenge, understandably. Fiscally, it's just, you know, people can't, I mean, you know, I'm on Social Security. You know, we can't just, you know, throw out a lot of money.
Okay.
So there, but one of the biggest things I think is a constraint too, is working out what the envelope is, what CMLP can provide. Because I think that we have to upgrade the electrical. That was the sense I got in California. Even if we upgraded our buildings, you know, to amperage and stuff, there would still be a point in time where we need to make sure that the utility that serves us can provide the electrical we need at the capacity we need. So that's a bigger institutional issue that would be great to work with the town on. I also wanted to mention, was it Russ or something who was talking about, I have friends, you know, the lessons learned from doing, I have friends who put in mini splits out here, and they said the biggest issue was all of a sudden they had to keep their temperature at a consistent temperature, or else the electrical rate just shot way up. Their bills shot way up. So they had to learn to live with an you know, like a 69 degree or something. And I don't know about you, but I like to sleep when it's cold out, so I turn down the heat at night. But anyway, so there are lessons like that have to be learned by people too, because you don't want to install something and then realize that you're not operating it correctly. And I heard somebody else say something about having contractors. Some of them advise that you keep this hybrid system with your old gas heater or whatever as backup. And I, you know, just from some of the research I've done, you know, there are systems that, you know, you can do a heat pump in Maine. So you might be able to do one in Massachusetts. And there's no question in my mind that climate change has happened. We don't have to talk about 2025 or 2050. Moving back here, this was a lovely snowstorm, but I moved out to California 17 years ago because I was sick of the snow. And I don't think I'm going to see that now that I'm back. But I'm back for my grandkids. So anyway, there was a reason to come back despite the snow. Anyway, all right. So I will be short now, but I'm going to be tracking this, and I'm going to try to figure out how I can get network in and help Concord Green basically do whatever it can do, fitting into whatever the IRA is providing through the state. I don't know. I used to work for the state on a municipal grant program 30, 40 years ago. So I have sort of an understanding of how the state works. Anyway, so that's my spiel.
Thank you so much for the comment. So, and welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
So it
I
was,
raised my kids in Harvard.
Elizabeth, what's your last name?
Copley, like Copley Square.
Okay.
So,
We should connect. I don't
Yeah.
know, at the, with, is there a homeowners, like, how is Concord Green run? There's a landlord. Is there an association?
Right. Yes, I mean, yeah, there's the condominium association.
Yeah,
And it's managed by, we have a property manager that manages it.
okay,
And there are all, you know, I don't want to get in trouble here. Yeah, I do know that there are some people obviously that have wanted to start converting from their gas ranges to induction stoves and convection ovens. And there has been put a moratorium on any decisions on doing that here because I think there is a major constraint about the electrical, and they just paved the roads. And the gas bill is, I don't pay for a gas bill here or hot water. Because it's part of my HOA fee instead.
that makes it difficult, that makes it
It
challenging.
makes, so there are all sorts of disincentives to doing it, and it's gonna be a really sticky wicket, but I'm willing to try.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and it would be nice to, you know, see about things like communities like this being included in whatever's done. We're not an environmental justice community, so we can't do that, but we are a multifamily, and there aren't a whole lot of multifamilies in Concord.
Right,
So it could fit maybe some kind, I'm an urban planner by training, and I know about environmental justice populations and all that. Anyway,
there is
So-
one good example across the street from you
that's being proposed.
at Staffordshire Terrace,
Oh,
where they
Okay.
put in heat pumps throughout
they
the
have?
whole, throughout that whole condo complex. But that's the only one that I'm aware of.
okay, well, that's good for them. Maybe I should have looked at them too before I bought here, but
Okay.
this
thank
is
you.
lovely. Anyway, okay, I'll let you go, because it's late.
Thank you.
It's a long day.
Yes.
So thank you, Russ, for coming as well. Do we need a motion to adjourn? We don't need a motion to adjourn. We just adjourn.
We can just adjourn.
So I'm sorry,
Okay,
Brad, we can follow up with you around, you know, volunteering and getting
Yeah.
involved and all that
Totally.
different stuff. You're the right point person? Okay, great.
thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.